Imagine a man who walked anteaters on leashes, painted dreams with unparalleled precision, and once gave a lecture wearing a deep-sea diving suit, only to nearly suffocate in the process. Salvador Dali wasn't just an artist, he was a walking enigma, living a life as surreal as the worlds he created on canvas. But what made Dali declare, "I am surrealism," a statement bold enough to alienate his peers? How did a simple nap with a heavy key in hand unlock the bizarre visions that would captivate the art world? And what kind of relationship would drive him to buy a castle for his wife, Gala, only to need written permission to visit her? Dali's life is filled with contradictions and controversies. He idolized Sigmund Freud, yet some of his paintings seem to mock psychoanalysis. His wife, muse, and manager Gala was his greatest source of inspiration, yet her sexual romping with poets and artists at parties raised more questions than answers. And then there's the art. From melting clocks to mystical crucifixions, Dali's masterpieces are laden with symbols and secrets. What do they reveal about his mind, his fears, and his dreams? We must dive headfirst into the food, animals, sexuality, and pure insanity to understand Dali. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the story of Dali's life, loves, art, and eccentricities through story and analysis of his paintings. You will have a good understanding of the man and his artwork by the end. Born on May 11, 1904 in Figueres, Catalonia, Salvador Dali entered the world under the shadow of a name already burdened with history. His older brother, also named Salvador, had died 9 months before Dali's birth, a fact his parents never let him forget. They believed their younger Salvador was a reincarnation of the deceased child, a notion that haunted Dali throughout his life. It fueled his fascination with identity, death, and the uncanny, all-recurring themes in his work. From an early age, Dali displayed artistic talent and an extraordinary imagination. Encouraged by his mother and indulged by his family, young Dali developed a flair for eccentricity. By the time he entered the prestigious San Fernando Academy of Fine Arts in Madrid, he had already cultivated the theatrical persona that would define his career. He once walked through the academy wearing a cape and carrying a cane, declaring himself a genius. Among Dali's very earliest paintings were works that displayed his classical training and fascination with Impressionism. As a teenager, Dali was inspired by the landscapes of Catalonia, capturing serene views of Figueres and Cadaqués in soft, delicate strokes reminiscent of the French Impressionists. Works like View of Cadaqués with Shadow of Mount Pani demonstrated his mastery of light and shadow. Dali's painted intimate portraits of his younger sister, Anna Maria, who often served as his muse during his formative years. Paintings such as Figure at a Window, 1925, capture Anna Maria in quiet, reflective poses, emphasizing light, texture, and an almost photographic realism. These works reveal Dali's early focus on detail and his burgeoning talent for blending realism with emotional depth. Even in these traditional beginnings, Dali's unique perspective began to emerge, laying the groundwork for the surreal worlds he would soon create. As a child, Salvador Dali showed early signs of his eccentricity and love for shock value. One infamous incident involved him pushing a classmate off a bridge, later confessing that he did it simply because he felt like it. Another time, young Dali coated himself in honey and feathers, parading around town as a human chicken to provoke and confuse onlookers. These antics, though unsettling to those around him, were early expressions of his fascination with performance and rebellion, traits that would later define his art and public persona. Dali's eccentric behavior often veered into cruelty. In one shocking incident, he pushed a servant off a ladder for no apparent reason other than to assert control. Dali later described the event with a mix of guilt and fascination, reflecting his early obsession with power dynamics and human emotion. Even in his youth, Dali's actions hinted at the complex and controversial figure he would become. Was he cruel, seeking attention, or crazy? In the 1920s, Dali became captivated by Surrealism, a revolutionary art movement inspired by dreams and the unconscious. He met key figures like André Breton, René Magritte, and Max Ernst, and quickly established himself as a rising star within the group. His ability to translate the irrational logic of dreams into precise, hyper-realistic images set him apart. He explored hypnagogia, the state between wakefulness and sleep, believing it unlocked the deepest corners of the subconscious. Dali would nap while holding a heavy key over a plate. As he drifted into sleep, the key would fall and wake him, allowing him to capture the vivid, dreamlike imagery of his hypnagogic state. This practice became the foundation of his surrealist style. What kind of visions did this strange process reveal? A major influence on Dali's work was Sigmund Freud, whose theories on dreams and the unconscious fascinated him. Freud's idea that dreams could reveal repressed desires and fears aligned perfectly with Dali's interests. This fascination culminated in a fateful meeting in London in 1938. Dali painted a portrait of Freud as a snail on a bicycle, an homage to the psychoanalyst's influence on his work. Freud, initially skeptical of surrealism, was struck by Dali's intensity and precision, describing him as a fanatical Spaniard. Dali's surrealist masterpiece, The Persistence of Memory, 1931, is one of his most iconic works, a visual exploration of time's fluidity and the nature of reality. The painting's melting clocks symbolize the relative and subjective experience of time, blending dreamlike visuals with hyper-realistic details. The barren landscape, inspired by Dali's home in Catalonia, evokes desolation and eternity, while the mysterious amorphous figure in the center hints at Dali's fascination with the subconscious. By juxtaposing the rigid and the formless, the piece invites viewers to question the boundaries between memory and imagination, the tangible and the surreal. But as Dali's fame grew, his eccentric behavior and controversial opinions began to alienate him from the surrealist movement. He refused to denounce Franco during the Spanish Civil War, leading to his expulsion from the group. Dali famously declared, "I am surrealism." But could he maintain his independence without the support of his peers? In 1929, Dali met Gala Eluard, a Russian immigrant 10 years his senior. Married to the poet Paul Eluard, Gala became Dali's lover, muse, and eventual wife. She was the anchor to his eccentricity, managing his finances and promoting his work with relentless determination. However, Dali's sexuality was as complex and enigmatic as his art. While his relationship with Gala was central to his life, Dali openly admitted to voyeuristic tendencies and a fascination with unconventional expressions of desire. Some of his works, like The Great Masturbator, 1929, reflect these preoccupations, blending erotic imagery with surreal symbolism. Dali also formed deep, ambiguous connections with other men, such as the poet Federico Garcia Lorca, who reportedly harbored unrequited romantic feelings for him. Though Dali denied consummating these relationships, his art often hinted at fluid boundaries and the exploration of hidden desires, mirroring the surrealist ethos of uncovering the subconscious. Gala's influence on Dali cannot be overstated. She appeared in many of his paintings, often idealized as a Madonna-like figure, as in Galatea of the Spheres. Dali called her his Gradiva, a reference to a character from Freud's writings, symbolizing the woman who leads a man to his destiny. However, their relationship was as unconventional as their personalities. Gala pursued numerous affairs, often with younger men, and Dali seemed unbothered, referring to her dalliances as essential to her happiness. One of the most outrageous stories about Gala involves her obsession with absolute control over her life and surroundings. During a trip to a luxurious resort, Gala became infatuated with a young lifeguard she met there. Deciding she wanted him as her companion, she demanded Dali pay for the man's company and ensure he stayed nearby for the duration of their stay. Dali, ever submissive to Gala's whims, complied without hesitation. Guests at the resort were stunned by the bizarre arrangement. But for Dali, Gala's happiness, no matter how surreal or costly, was worth any price. Their peculiar bond extended to their domestic arrangements. Later in life, Dali bought Gala a castle in Pubol, Spain, where she lived separately and only allowed him to visit with written permission. Despite these eccentricities, or perhaps because of them, their partnership endured. What drove this unlikely yet enduring connection between two such larger-than-life figures? Dali's life was filled with antics that blurred the line between performance and reality. In 1936, he delivered a lecture at the International Surrealist Exhibition in London, wearing a deep-sea diving suit. When he began to suffocate, the audience thought it was part of the act, but Dali had to be rescued. He later claimed the suit symbolized his diving into the human subconscious. One of Dali's most curious ventures into advertising was his campaign for Lanvin chocolate in the 1960s. In a television commercial, Dali dramatically exclaimed, "I'm mad for Lanvin chocolate," while biting into a bar. The ad was quintessential Dali, absurd, flamboyant, and unforgettable. He incorporated surreal elements, turning the campaign into a spectacle that elevated the chocolate beyond a product into an art form. It remains a perfect example of Dali's ability to merge his eccentric personality with commercial success. Dali's reputation as an eccentric extended beyond the art world. He once sent a Rolls-Royce filled with cauliflower to Paris as an avant-garde statement. On another occasion, he paraded through town in a Rolls-Royce containing a mannequin dressed in fine clothes and filled it with rotting cabbages and snails. The pungent smell turned heads and confused passers-by, but Dali reveled in the chaos. For him, the act was a commentary on the juxtaposition of luxury and decay, a theme that resonated deeply with his artistic vision. Gala matched his eccentricity. She demanded grand gestures, including an art gallery built entirely for her in Spain. Dali complied, viewing her happiness as essential to his creativity. But amidst all the chaos and spectacle, what would become Dali's enduring legacy? As Dali matured, his work shifted toward religious and scientific themes. He became fascinated with atomic energy and its implications, developing a style he called nuclear mysticism. Paintings like The Sacrament of the Last Supper and Christ of St. John of the Cross reflected a synthesis of surrealism, spirituality, and geometry. One of Dali's most enigmatic paintings, Leda Atomica, 1949, explores the myth of Leda and the swan with a surreal twist. The painting features Leda, modeled after Gala, floating serenely in space alongside various symbolic objects, all suspended as if defying gravity. Dali's fascination with nuclear science and the concept of disintegration inspired this work, reflecting his belief in a universe governed by precise yet mysterious forces. The painting combines his meticulous technique with a profound philosophical inquiry. How can art reveal the invisible forces shaping reality? Another example of Dali's commercialism was his practice of signing hundreds of blank sheets of paper. These sheets were later sold or used to create unauthorized prints of his works, flooding the market with questionable authenticity. While this move baffled critics and collectors, Dali saw it as an extension of his brand, a surreal commentary on the commodification of art itself. It remains a controversial legacy of his career. Gala's death in 1982 devastated Dali. Without her stabilizing influence, he became increasingly reclusive and struggled with depression. His health deteriorated, and he withdrew from public life. In his final years, Dali lived in the Torre Galatea, a tower in his hometown of Figueres, now part of the Dali Theatre Museum, a project he had overseen as a legacy to his work. Dali died on January 23, 1989, from heart failure. He was buried in his museum, ensuring his legacy remained inseparable from the place of his birth and his art. There are so many crazy little stories about Dali and so many incredible paintings that rarely get seen. I'll put them in shorts for you to see soon. A last thought about Dali. It's pretty clear that he craved attention and did whatever he could to get it. It seemed to help him legitimize himself. It's a sad way to go, but do visit his museums as his artistic legacy is phenomenal.